Hello everyone, welcome to a special interview for the Oak Journal. Today's conversation is with one of India's academic think tank and a professor at Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, Arkam Mateen. Professor, as Amazon is competing with almost every other company in the world, from space exploration to retail stores to supply chain, and surprisingly, these companies are also customers of Amazon's biggest profit maker, the AWS. How do you think the future of this relationship? Are they going to think about other alternatives? Or will AWS be forced to separate from its parent company, Amazon?
I think it's fair to say that AWS is an interesting and a big part of the Amazon dominance. And the question is also interesting because, as you said, many of the large players are also customers in that sense. But that's where the understanding of the Amazon flywheel helps us, right? Uh, Essentially, the nature of the flywheel is once you set it in motion, it becomes kind of a perpetual motion machine in some senses, that it keeps on, generating its own reasons for dominance, and people keep on coming. So the more you improve the customer experience, the more number of customers keep on coming in, and the more the number of customers keep on coming in, the number of suppliers who want to join also goes up, which increases availability, possibly reduces prices, and once more the customer experience improves. And this circle of this flywheel, keeps on increasing, keeps on improving and improving. So this is definitely very, very important. And AWS, very, very high margins, relatively speaking, compared to other businesses. But at the same time, it's important to remember that if we say that AWS is subsidizing the other businesses of Amazon, it's not strictly true. Amazon, other businesses are also, some of the most interesting businesses in the world. They have their own private labels, some of which are doing well in some categories, others not so much. But the good thing is, they keep on learning always. That hunger to learn, that focus on customer centricity. Those are obviously some of the features that separate Amazon from the other usual companies. And whatever they don't do well in, they try to learn, try to improve, and they are not too afraid to discard also. They are not too afraid to discard also, right? I mean, you have the Alexa platform emerging, and it was launched very, very near to that Fire phone's failure that Amazon had. So in that sense, this aspect of learning is very, very important. And there is also another issue, right? See, people come to AWS because it offers them, in many cases, unmatched value. So till the time Amazon continues to offer that unmatched value, people and companies would continue to come for that, and they are innovating all the time. Having said that, the competitors are also not sitting idle, right? So one of the biggest contracts, the recent JEDI contract of the Pentagon, so it did not go to Amazon. It did not go to Amazon. Of course, there are some legal matters also involved, but it is just to signify that others are also improving, and as the competition intensifies, I think in many ways there is no greater competitor than Amazon. And the best thing from a customer point of view is that they will win. So it comes, customer obsessed company like Amazon would, I'm sure, see it again as as an opportunity, a challenge together, and continue to work on that. Having said this, it is also important to understand that the dominance is not so absolute, right? So people sometimes argue that Amazon is like a monopoly. That argument, has a lot of takers, and that's a very, very interesting argument to make. And one of the counter arguments that some people make is that let's not define markets for this purpose too narrowly. Because the moment you change the definition from Amazon's market share in online retail to Amazon's market share in overall retail, the scenario changes dramatically. Right? So one has to be careful in terms of understanding that this is exactly what is the purpose being talked about, what is the nature of outcome, and I think all of us can agree that till the time customers are better off, it's a good thing on an overall basis.
One of the major sickness of Indian economy is its poor supply chain. In the same time, Amazon is a world leader in supply chain. Amazon is not doing well in Indian market, and there are reports about tensions between India government, especially Prime Minister Modi and Amazon. Is there any possibility that India government resolves its tension with the founder Jeff Bezos and find a common ground to address the defective supply chain in India?
I think this is a very interesting question that you've asked in terms of how does Amazon capability, become symbiotic to the growth of supply chain infrastructure in our country. I think we all agree that Amazon is having amazing operational capabilities. It has an excellent supply chain, and that's a very well accepted fact. But I would like to start at a more macro level. One of the things that I have always felt about Jeff Bezos is that he's a very, very keen observer and a very analytical thinker. And I have always found this to be true. Whenever I try to see his videos, even in the initial years, right? So around 20 years or so ago. So your question kind of reminded me of an interview that he gave at the Recode conference a few years back. And he talks about a lot of things, and one of the points that he makes about is in many ways about his worldview of how he sees the role of governments. And he tries to position the role of government as infrastructure platform provider in some senses. So basically the government provides the underlying platform, and then enterprises come in and then they innovate, they experiment, they iterate, they learn, they make mistakes, and then take things forward. So for example, you could have national highways, right? The government constructs the highways, and once the highways are made, then all sorts of companies can come in. Logistics companies, retailing companies, different sectors, different verticals, they can come in, try to build different models, try to build different practices, and the entire economy benefits from that. In fact, a similar parallel could be drawn to the internet services also. Provision of digital infrastructure. So the network is provided, and then the space opens up for competition, for creative thinking, for creative destruction. A lot of experimentation keeps on happening. So that's one of the points which he makes in the interview. So in that sense, he views of it as a platform of as a platform provider, for infrastructure, for the role of government. And in many ways, you see the mirror of how Amazon also thinks about its role, right? Infrastructure opens it up, different people come in, and leads to overall benefit, right? So a player like Amazon, when it comes to India, and it's a cliche, but nevertheless I've always felt it true, that India has its own unique challenges, right? So that's why many of the companies, when they come from outside and they try to photocopy the model, so to speak, they tend to fail, or at least falter. And the best ones, of course, learn, tweak their models. And that is precisely what has happened with Amazon, right? So they come, and it's not been a one-way relationship, right? There has been a cross-functional movement of learnings, capabilities, practices. I remember reading about the Tatkal onboarding scheme for sellers, so which was very efficient, very responsive, and very, very quick mechanism to onboard them. And I think they were so happy with the results that they took it outside India also. So in that sense, you learn from the market, from the Indian market, and then take things back, right? So all of us know that India has one of the highest logistics costs in the world. The supply chain infrastructure, the supply chain per se is not as good as possibly would like it to be. For example, cold chain is one area where a lot of people say that we need to improve tremendously. So having said that, I think the policymakers are fully apprised of the matter, and they have been experimenting with a lot of interesting things, facilitating intermodal transport, coming up with new regulation, coming up with new policies to spur growth in the area. And I think we are at the cusp of very, very interesting times, right? So at the same time, this whole process leads to generation of lot of new business models, lot of interesting companies. You have players like Milk Basket, you have players like Ninja Cart, you have players like all all sorts of players, right? Essentially, trying to experiment, trying to tweak their models, pre-COVID, post-COVID, how are the differences. So, as an academic, it's a very, very interesting set of learnings for me. You can learn a lot, you can question a lot, a lot of interesting cases, a lot of interesting anecdotes, a lot of interesting practices. So, which gets, keeps us awake, so to speak. Again, you keep on learning. So, at the same time, one has to realize that by virtue of government, the nature of government, they cannot really have a favorite. They can, of course, learn. They can always, invite people over for sharing best practices, but there is no favorite, so to speak. End of the day, right? So they are a force multiplier in that sense. They're a force multiplier. They give you the backbone, and then you take it from there. Different business organizations can take it from there. So as he said, definitely a lot of stuff is happening. And I would also say that it's not really an antagonistic relationship, right? It's end of the day, there are, in any policy, there are a lot of different objectives. That's true for pretty much all. It's a very, very complex task, right? You have different set of stakeholders, each with their own motivations, their own requirements, their own constraints, and juggling all of them is not an easy task. And that's precisely what different price policies have to do. And I think that's a very iterative process. A lot of consultation happens, and things move on from there. And that's precisely what we are seeing in the Indian ecosystem also. And I'm quite sure that we are going to see a lot of interesting things happening, especially with the recent call for making ourselves Atmanirbhar, self-dependent. I think it's not a call for stresses that you just be wherever you are. No, it's a call for improvement. One has to see it as a call for improvement. That how do we bring ourselves to world-class levels, and then we ourselves become standard setters in that sense. So I think we are living in interesting times, and not just Amazon, but all such excellent players. We can definitely learn at every level of our country, whether it's the smallest player all the way up to the largest player. We can definitely learn, and definitely they can also learn from us. And I'm quite sure we are going to see a lot of interesting stuff happening in the near future, and we are hopeful that supply chains would definitely improve, because it is far too important part of business to not focus on. And as an academic in supply chain, that's my earnest hope, and I'm very, very hopeful that you will have plenty to talk about in this regard.
Professor Mateen, pleasure talking to you.